All right, let's get right into it. We hear the term influencer marketing thrown around constantly, right? But for a lot of people, it just sounds like a game of likes and followers. Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and show you how it's actually a powerful, data-driven engine for serious business growth. We're talking about shifting the focus from just being popular to being profitable. So I want to start with a number that should really make you sit up and pay attention. 76%.
That's right. That's the potential boost in actual sales, in real customers you can get when you partner with the right person, someone who's built genuine, authentic trust with their audience. It is an absolutely staggering difference, and it proves this is about way more than just getting your name out there.
And that is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? With so much money pouring into this space, it is incredibly easy to burn through a budget on a campaign that gets a lot of buzz, but doesn't actually move the needle on your bottom line. So how do you make sure your investment is actually going to pay off? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down in this explainer. We're going to look at how trust has evolved, walk you through a proven 90-day campaign blueprint, talk about choosing the right partner, and finally get into how to measure what really, truly matters. First things first, to really get a handle on where we are today, you have to understand how we got here. Because the whole idea of influence has gone through this massive transformation over the past 100 years or so. You know, it all started with those classic celebrity endorsements. Think big movie stars on TV. It was totally a one-way street. Then the 2000s hit, and bloggers changed the game. Suddenly, what your peers recommended mattered more than what a brand was telling you. The 2010s, of course, were all about the explosion of YouTube and Instagram, creating this new class of professional creators. But that led us to where we are now, in the 2020s, where the real currency isn't just a huge follower count. It's authenticity, transparency, and real community engagement.
Okay, so let's get into the playbook. A truly successful influencer campaign isn't some random shot in the dark. It actually follows a really predictable life cycle. And this isn't just theory. Based on an analysis of over 500 campaigns, the team at Digital Media 305 found a super clear 90-day pattern.
So that first month is what we call the discovery phase. This is where you see the biggest splash, the highest click-through rates, a ton of buzz. Then you move into stabilization. Now, the initial hype might cool off a bit, but this is where the magic happens. The quality of your conversions goes way, way up. And finally, you hit the late adopters phase, where the message starts to get a little stale and performance will dip unless you switch things up. Now, check this out, because this chart shows a really fascinating trade-off. See, in stage 1, you get a flood of clicks. That's your high click-through rate. But in stage 2, even though you get fewer clicks, the people who do buy are spending more money. Your average order value can jump by 40 to 60%. Why? Because they've had a month to think about it, and now they're ready to make a real commitment.
And this brings us to one of the most important takeaways. Influencer marketing is not some set it and forget it tactic. If you don't refresh the content or change up the angle after that 90-day cycle, you can expect a major drop-off in performance. You've got to stay active and keep things fresh.
So you've got the blueprint, which is great, but it's pretty much useless without the right person for the job. So how in the world do you find someone who has real influence and not just a big number next to their name?
First off, you have to understand this absolutely critical difference. A content creator's job is to get views, to get reach. That's their currency. But a true influencer, they shape the beliefs and decisions of their community. Their currency is trust. Remember that. You're not just buying reach, you're borrowing their trust.
And this table here illustrates perfectly that bigger isn't always better. Just look at those engagement rates. The nano-influencers, the ones with just a few thousand followers, have engagement rates that can be 4 times higher than the mega-influencers. It's wild. For niche products or for building a tight-knit community, smaller can be so much mightier.
And look, before you even think about signing a contract, you have to vet these 3 things. Are they flexible enough to work with your brand's message? What's their reputation really like? Are there any controversial skeletons in the closet that could put your brand at risk? And finally, is their message built on something timeless, or is it tied to a fleeting trend that could look really bad in a year? You gotta remember, social media content is forever.
All right, you've got your blueprint, you've found a potential partner you're excited about. Now it's time to get into the nitty-gritty. Let's talk numbers. How do you actually analyze their audience and figure out a fair price?
Okay, pro tip. Do not just look at their public follower count. You need to ask them for screenshots of their back-end analytics from the last 90 days. You need to see if their audience is actually growing, who these people are, where they live, and most importantly, how engaged are they? I mean, are people watching for 3 seconds or for 3 minutes? That makes all the difference in the world.
So how much should you actually pay? Here's a super practical framework used by the pros at Digital Media 305. You basically figure out what it would cost to reach a similar audience using Google Ads, and then you compare that to the influencer's cost per view. Take a real-world example. Digital Media 305 works with major influencers like Alex Hormozi. Now, his show can command an investment of up to $15,000 a month, but by using this kind of data-driven approach, they can show that this investment results in an incredible 160% ROI. That campaign generates about 18 new clients every single month, with an average transaction of $2,500. We're talking about turning that investment into roughly $45,000 in new business, not to mention a long list of open contracts and a huge media presence. That's how you prove the price is right and the profit is real.
But listen, data isn't everything. You have to remember that some of the biggest benefits here are things you can't really track on a spreadsheet. When an influencer vouches for you, their hard-earned trust transfers over to your brand. That creates prestige. And the content they make, it lives on, providing value long after that initial campaign is over.
So if you take away one thing, let it be this. Influencer marketing is not some passing trend. It's simply the natural digital evolution of the oldest and most powerful form of marketing that has ever existed. One person turning to another and saying, "Hey, you should try this. I trust it." Technology just gave that recommendation a global stage.
And that really leaves us with one final question you need to ask yourself. When you look at your own marketing strategy, are you just chasing likes and followers? Or are you building a system designed for real, measurable, and sustainable growth? In other words, is your marketing built for popularity, or is it built for profit?